Hey, another successful landing. Everybody keeps asking me what sort of vitamin C that I take. And, by the way, my lifelong buddy is top 5, or at least top 10 experts in the whole world on vitamin C. No affiliate links, no sponsorship. You can get it on Nutri.com. Whoops! And I recommend actually getting the larger jar than this, or on Amazon.com. It's called sea salts. Yeah, there it is right there. People say, liposomal vitamin C, this stuff. Superficially, it seems like a good idea, but it's actually a horrible idea. And it's horrible for many reasons. The two primary reasons, people say, well, I make my own liposomal vitamin C. Good for you. Who cares? If you buy this stuff, not only is it hard to get, it's also radically expensive. The worst part about it, and people say, well, you know, you get more of it gets into your digestive tracts, you're not wasting it as opposed to like any other type of vitamin C where a lot of it just passes through your system. More of it gets absorbed because it's basically like, I think this stuff is suspended in sunflower oil. There's different suspensions. Like, more of it gets into your system when you take liposomal vitamin C. That's true, but to take a megadose of liposomal is basically impossible. What do I mean by megadose? I'm talking about like, 14 plus grams. Because there's so much oil in this, to take a megadose of this is really, really dumb, and you'd be like belching up and probably coughing up because you'd be consuming too much oil. So it's a really bad idea, liposomal. Superficially, it seems like a great idea, but it's actually a bad idea. And even if you make your own, but if you buy this stuff, it's radically expensive. No, taking a megadose of liposomal is essentially impossible. You could, but it'd be a really, really dumb idea unless you like belching up and, puking up a bunch of oil that stuff is suspended in. So I know why people recommend liposomal. Superficially, it seems like a great idea, but it's actually a dumb idea. Because I was so run down the other day. So what's going on? We're in the calm before the storm. We absolutely are in the calm before the storm. I wanted to give, and this is anecdotal, but it's actually happening across a good significant part of America, this 911 issue. I love it when people say, I don't need to pack a hand blaster or something for defense, if it goes down, we're going to call the cops. Well, the cops are going to show up with a piece of chalk, and they're going to draw an outline around your body. Yeah, because when seconds count, the cops are... Anyway, my buddy was... I know this is anecdotal, but this is Lexington. This is not like, where all the stupidity and insanity is going on, like New York, New Jersey, the places that have gone woke, and by woke I mean stupid. Portland, Seattle, California, Chicago, all where the woke, like, I believe in letting all the murderers out that are in jail. Well, that seems like a really smart idea. Well, sure, nobody should be locked up forever. I mean, I know the guy, he committed 10 homicides, but he shouldn't be locked up forever. I think we should let him out. Oh, really smart idea. So Lexington is the total opposite of that. My buddy was in a car accident, and a guy T-boned him. And I know this is anecdotal, but it's happening a lot. And this even made the news for Lexington, because this is a really hyper-normal city. He called 911 4 times and was hung up on 4 times. And the 5th 911 call, he wasn't majorly dead. He's actually the guy that owns and runs my local leather store. He's okay. He wasn't significantly hurt, but there's a bunch of car wreckage and stuff. The 5th 911 call, he counted. It took 30 rings for 911 to pick up. People, I laugh at people. My entire life I've laughed. As someone that has worked in sold blasters, I used to work for Antique Modern, Classic Arms and Archery, former concealed carry instructor, used to teach marksmanship lessons. I laugh at people that think, why would I need to carry anything? I got a cell phone in case an emergency happens. Like, you got to be kidding me. 911's gone crazy. Anyway, Canada, the number of times that Canada makes the news in the United States is like non-existent. I'm like 50 years old, and I can only count on like one hand the number of times that Canada ever really makes the news in the United States, because nothing ever happens in Canada. Everything's all fine, eh? So, and I know how horrible Captain Dementia is that's running the United States. You know, I'm not like pointing my finger at Canada, because I know, you know, the stupidity and the ignorance that is going on in the United States. You don't need to point out to me the bleeding obvious. So, Un Petit Castro, I'm going to call him, Un Petit Castro, that's running Canada. He was actually two things. The huge thing he did yesterday, but I got to get to this first. He was asked about the war in Ukraine, and he said, "What's that going to do for your green energy transition, Mr. Un Petit Castro?" He said, these are his exact words. He said it gleefully. "Oh, the Ukrainian war is accelerating our green energy transition." Are you proud of that? He was actually gleeful. Oh, it's accelerating our green energy transition. Really? That's how you want to look at it. Okay. By the way, this guy has, and I know how ignorant and unintelligent Captain Dementia is that's running the United States. But this guy, Un Petit Castro, I'm going to call him, that's running Canada, he says he's famous for saying the quiet parts out loud. In other words, he really is. He's famous for saying, like, you're not supposed to say that. People aren't supposed to know that. I've noticed he's done it many times, especially over the past 2 or 3 years. And what he did yesterday is absolutely amazing. Every American that I know, since, I used to teach, have a range, a firing range. It's only 2.5 acres. And, former concealed carry instructor. Canada has gone full tilt, as the English will say, tatas up. Full tilt insane. Old Un Petit Castro said, effective immediately, that Canada would ban the purchase and transfer and sale of hand blasters. Pew, 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 pew. Hope you know what a hand blaster is. I'm saying hand blaster instead of the HAND word because the algorithms are always listening. So Canada has banned all hand blasters. Yeah. That falls under perfect approval of Pol Pot, Joseph Stalin, Chairman Mao, all the people that don't want the citizenry to have the ability for defense. Absolutely can have, I'm sorry, but I'm speaking for myself here, I can have absolutely no respect for any entity, meaning government, and I don't care about politics. You think, you're talking about politics. I know I'm not. I'm talking about simple freedoms and liberties, right? Freedom of speech, freedom of defense against not only self-preservation, but against tyranny. Hello, Second Amendment. I don't care what anybody thinks about the United States. There's nowhere else I can go in this world, basically not, where, I have the First and Second Amendment. I'm sorry, and I'm not wagging my finger at any Canadians. If you think I am, or Un Petit Castro as I'm calling him, I'm not. But that's just full tilt insane. It's full tilt insane. By the way, I got the crime statistics here. Canadian homicide rates per 100,000, average from 2007 to 2016. Gangs, it's 586. Average Canadian citizen, 1.8. Licensed blaster, pew pew, owner, licensed Canadian blaster owner with the registered blaster, 0.35. 0.35. This is the statistics of Canadian Special Requests 58232 and 58777. And there we go. There we go. So what this does is it makes the criminals really happy because they know that it's the reason why all the evil stuff that goes down in America 99% of the time happens in a blaster-free zone. Translate that into criminal, it means, oh, no one's going to here is going to oppose my, my evil deeds. Oh, no one here is packing. Most people are good. So criminals who, of course, don't obey the law, they're really going to be affected by Un Petit Castro's banning of all hand blasters. And it's on his tweet. You can go look it up on his Twitter page. Yeah. All sales, all transfer, all import. Hey, that's awesome. Full tilt tyranny. Way to go, Canada. Way to go, Canada. Way to go. And I'm not picking on Canadians, okay? If you think I am, I'm not. Here's something huge, and this has an upside because it get a lot of parents to take their kids out of public school, which is really, if you hate your children, you will stick them in public school. One of the most evil things you could do to your children is subject them to public school. So CDC recommends, and CDC was attacking other people when they gave this recommendation. CDC is recommending all little kids get the stab juice. Yeah, unlike what other country is doing that? None. So CDC, and the CDC came out, oh, there you pick on us at CDC, we're only making a recommendation. Well, the problem with that is that a lot of these states, especially the liberal ones like Oregon, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, blah, 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 they take those recommendations and they make mandates out of them. So CDC was like, oh, there you pick on us. Some of these news people out there picking on the CDC. This is only a recommendation. It was actually a unanimous recommendation from the CDC that all little children get the stab juice. And I'm not going to make any statements of opinion or personal view on this. I bet you could probably guess what I'm going to say, but I'm not going to say it for many, many reasons. But CDC is wrong about that when they say, well, it's just a recommendation from the CDC. It's meaningless because these states make mandates out of their recommendations. So hardcore tyranny, pure, I'm not going to comment on that. I really, I don't have any children, but I really want to comment on that, but I'm not going to. I'll let you figure out my position on that. I am going to be extremely shocked, but also too happy. Extremely shocked if nothing happens before, like, say, the 1st or through the 5th of November. We're already into late October. We have the November elections here in the United States, which can overturn an enormous amount of impinging tyranny. An enormous amount. November election surprise, I'm calling it. I hope nothing happens as far as, some government entity in whatever shape or form. Something has to happen from some entity of the government, whether it be multiple or just one, to disrupt what is going to happen here in the United States November the 8th. I will be extremely shocked if nothing happens. These people that want to impose New World Order, World Economic Forum tyranny, I was like, well, they really operate with full abandonment, with no restrictions already. But they do need a lot of support, and they, of course, control the media, which is, of course, the media is incredibly evil. But I will be really shocked, but happy, if nothing happens to intervene in the elections here in the United States. Many Germans I've talked to, Deutschlanders, say there still is a huge heating and energy crisis looming despite the gas cap costs that are being put in place, since it puts an incredibly nasty burden, especially on the poor people, worst of all. The German parliament, the Bundestag, approved a $200 billion energy relief plan. However, the EU's plan to cap natural gas prices is going to swipe supplies away from Europe. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has warned, and that's because these supplies will be sold by the sellers to countries that are offering a higher price. You sell it to the people offering the highest price. Very, very highly potentially leaving Europe in the dark. Individually, Germans have also, too, taken other measures to lower the price of electricity, which is largely fueled by natural gas. The nation, and this is astonishing, the nation is considering a 90% tax on excess profits from power companies selling resources for energy. That's hardcore danger zone. That's what you do in a time of all-out war. 90% tax on energy sale profits. Wood prices have essentially doubled in Deutschland. I don't know about the rest of Europe. Worst case scenario for Europe is a very cold winter. In this case, the worst economic scenario, even though that liquefied natural petroleum is being stockpiled, and a lot of Deutschlanders, the parliament, experts in the parliament say, oh, we're stockpiling. We're going to make it in the United States, sending over the tankers with LNG, liquefied natural gas. We think we're going to be there. They all say basically the same thing. We think we're going to make it. That the European economy goes into an absolute free fall because they cannot produce anything, because it's too expensive, and the government prioritizes sending the gas to people's flats, to their homes, so that they don't freeze to death, rather than industry. I don't care what government it is in Europe or the EU. You know, you have, well, we can either not produce widgets at the Deutsche Industry, whatever the heck they make. You know, we got to send, you know, the fuel that feeds the production of the widgets in Deutschland or France to people's homes so that they don't freeze to death. It's like, well, that's wonderful. You're keeping the people alive. Yeah, but it's going to cause a free fall, a really, really nasty free fall and a depression, because the industry won't be producing anything. I don't know if you know what happens like in a time of all-out war, however this would be an energy war, which it essentially is. Especially if it's a cold winter, it'll be really bad. If a country's not producing anything, I don't know if you know what happens to the economy, but it's not good. It's like, well, everybody's alive. Wonderful. Yeah, but the country is economically destroyed because we diverted fuel and energy that was going to go to the factory for producing widgets to people's homes to keep them alive. So this is the calm before the storm. I hate to say that. I'm not a doom and gloomer. I'm not a doom and gloomer at all. It's affected everybody. You know, I went to the grocery store today. I went to the bulk place. I went to Sam's Club, which is like the poor man's version of Costco. You know, the prices are just ridiculous. It's harder to sell, and I'm not talking about luxury leather goods. You know, leather goods now. I mean, I love sitting behind my sewing machines and making things. I have multiple jobs. I'm obviously not starving to death. But, I mean, it's affecting everybody. This is the calm before the storm. If this is a cold winter, Europe is going to suffer big time. Even if it's not a really cold winter. There's just so much, and Russia is going to escalate. I told people this weeks ago, I said Russia will escalate 100%, and that's exactly what they are doing. A 90% tax on profits from fuel? I mean, that's not even stuff we saw in World War II. It tells you how radical it is. People that sell fire... There's an issue in Germany, Deutschland, and I've heard this from Germans themselves, where people are technically stealing wood, and I don't blame them, stealing wood from protected forests, you know, so they don't freeze to death this winter. You know, going out with chainsaws, hatchets, you know, sticking it in the trunk, hauling it back, making multiple trips. I don't know how big the forests are left in Deutschland. That I don't know. Most Americans have this idea that, like, most of Europe has been deforested since the Middle Ages. I don't know what the percentage of forests are left in Deutschland. I don't pretend to know that, but anyway, that's what... and I was even live stream talking to some Deutschlanders, and I said, what's the energy crisis going to be? And he used a cuss word that I can't repeat. It's like, basically, Deutschland is bleep up the creek. So that's what the Germans are actually telling me. By the way, I love Canadians. However, I'm sorry, I'm just giving you the American perspective. You know, Pol Pot, Un Petit Castro, you know, the people that agree with what he did as far as banning hand blasters. You know, because criminals don't give a damn. I mean, don't people realize that? Criminals don't care what laws you pass. That's why I laugh my frickin' butt off when I see these signs. This is a blaster-free zone. Oh, well, that just means when a criminal sees it, oh, no one here is going to oppose me. Yeah, I can do whatever I want here. Criminals don't obey the laws. Most people are good. Pol Pot would be fully endorse this. Chairman Mao, Stalin, many others. It's just tyranny. I'm sorry, I have no faith or trust in anybody that wants to declaw, you know, it's kind of like, I don't have a cat, by the way, like a heresy to declaw a cat. You know, well, the cat scratches up the furniture. You know, what about defang? Why don't you just neuter it, declaw it, and, you know, take out its, you know, sharp little teeth. You can file them down like human teeth, make them flat. Oh, this kitty's all I done, ruin the furniture no more. He just sits over there and gets fat and wets himself. Oh, isn't that sweet? I don't have a problem with my couch getting ripped up anymore by my kitty because he's been declawed. Meow. Every police officer on this earth will tell you that they will never arrive in time to save your butt. They're just going to show up with a piece of chalk, and they're going to draw an outline around your, you know, drooling corpse laying on there we go. There's where Bob died. We arrived like 20 minutes late. Bob used to have a blaster, but the Canadian government said that, yeah, he couldn't buy a blaster anymore. Yeah, no hand blasters for Bob. Criminals don't obey the laws. Most people are good. You know, impugning on the natural rights of good Canadian citizens because a handful of gangs. All of these are false excuses. Anybody that falls for them has been listening to the media and sucking at the nip of the media, and therefore they are stupid. That's just me. I have no respect for any entity, whether it be governmental or personal, that wants to declaw and defang the natural rights of citizens for their own defense and against tyranny. You can attack me all you want. I don't care. I know more about this topic than all of you combined. If you think that is egotistical, I also don't care. On that topic, I am right. Period. Criminals don't care what laws ignorant, knuckle-dragging, mental midget, pseudo-intellectual, dumb, politicians pass. They don't care because they're a criminal by definition. I love it when Europeans and Canadians say, why do you need one of those things? You living in fear? It's like, no, let's examine this, please. You got a house? Yes, I got a house. You got a smoke alarm in there? Yes, I do. Why, you living in fear? You afraid of fire? You got house insurance? What are you afraid of? You put your seatbelt on when you get in your car? What are you afraid of having an accident? You living in fear? Yeah. Why do you throw away expired food? Why don't you, like, live dangerously? Why do you throw away expired food or stuff that's got mold on it? Well, you don't want to get sick. Oh, you're living in fear. I love it when people use that. Why you got a fire extinguisher? You got a fire extinguisher? Yeah, I got a fire extinguisher. Why, you living in fear? What are you so afraid of fires for? You'll say, why do you stupid Americans need that stuff? Because when seconds count, the cops are minutes away. And that doesn't matter if it's the United States, doesn't matter if it's Europe, Deutschland, Spain, France, UK, Ireland, Switzerland, Iceland, New Zealand, Australia. One of the fundamental rights of human beings that were granted to me by my forefathers who died for my rights is my right to safety and freedom, defense of self, and defense against tyranny. Whether you agree with that or not, I don't give a hoot in hell. That is my right. It is given to me by those who came before me and who died for those rights. Whether you agree with that or not, I don't care. They are mine, and they're the rights that I have. And I know a lot of Canadians emailed me right after Un Petit Castro passed this tyrannical law that Canadians don't have that right anymore. But that's none of my business because I'm not a Canadian. But I was letting you know that's what's happened in the world. Inching ever closer every day, turning up the heat on the old frog sitting in the pot. Just turn up the heat a little bit more. The old frog doesn't realize it's too damn hot, and he just starts cooking, and he turns over on his back, and his tongue hangs out. Blah. You cook the frog. Yep. Let me know what you think. I read every comment. Lux et veritas. Right after this video, I'm going to consult my crystal ball for what else the future holds. I found this really, really, really cheap like a year ago for 30 bucks. It actually is real genuine quartz. I couldn't pass it up. No, I don't actually use a crystal ball. I just love beautiful stone stuff, but you pass it up for 30 bucks. Anyway, that's the sea salts that I use for vitamin C. It's this stuff, Nutri.com, or get it on Amazon. I get no kickbacks. Make sure you keep it dry. Don't stick like a wet spoon in there or something. Really, really dumb. Don't do that. Thanks. Goodbye.